everyone was doing all white parties. And we were like, we are sick of wearing all white. We are so sick of it. And so we called it Genesis All Black. But what ended up happening with that is that it became this vessel for like, I am black, and a celebration of blackness. Whatever the cause might be, there are always going to be those privileged people, and we always have to look to them to take the message to the forefront, because nobody else listens to everyone else. So you kind of almost have a responsibility. I meet people who are like, oh my God, I've stopped watching the news. I'm like, don't. You can't trust me. I'm in my gown telling you about Donald Trump. You cannot trust me.
Welcome to another episode of Colorful. You know we love bringing you the conversations that sit at the intersection of race, identity, culture, and real world impact, right? So I'm here today. I'm Amahle Zungu, joined in studio by my best friend and co-host, Stacey Jane. Shosho skimsami kipan.
Sena. Yapila.
Sure.
That's your culture. There you go.
I needed a stab of culture. I guess I love how you introduce me. Sometimes it's always a trip to find out what you're going to say. You know what? Actually, culture is a good place to start. Is it this morning or this afternoon? This afternoon. This is a wonderful place to start because we have such a pop culture enthusiast in the room with us today. We have a creative entrepreneur, a storyteller, a social commentator, all one person. Yeah. And you will know her if you are on TikTok. You will know her as the incredible creator behind the greeting. How's it, guys?
How's it?
Obviously, I am referring to Amahle Jaxa. It's lovely to have you in the studio with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm excited.
Awesome. So you know what's coming next, right?
We're painting our nails.
We are painting our nails. Are we painting both hands or just one hand?
Just one.
Very nice.
Just to stick with the style.
Okay, the aesthetic.
To be different. Not to conform.
As a fashion girly, we are so on board on that, Like, you are the fashion girly, you're the fashion girly, so lead us.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so the red, this is our brand color, right? It's also, we feel red is bold, it's confident, it's about having a voice in a place where we need to be having a voice. And so that is why the red nails, while one hand. For the plot?
For the plot.
Exactly.
For the plot?
Exactly.
Cool. So you go ahead, right? I'll hold the bottle. We found this is easier if I hold it for you.
Okay, cool.
And you do the painty.
Thank you.
And
yeah.
Sana, do you have any questions for us this morning?
Yes, I do. Sometimes we're so bad at multitasking, so we're like, let's do a mini yap while you paint your nails. So as the pop culture connoisseur, I'm going to ask you, all of you, and I'm going to actually start, what has been your favorite pop culture moment over the past year? So I'll go first.
Okay.
While you paint.
I'm almost done.
Okay.
I move fast.
quick.
And this red is not going to show because these nails are black, but it's there.
It's the effort.
It's there. Believe it. It's there. Okay, you see me doing it.
I'm going to say Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance. I had a feeling you were going to say it, so that's why I needed to start.
You stole my line.
I can't think of anything cooler, so sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be everything Kendrick Lamar did last year.
Damn.
Yeah, everything is beautiful. He's the best.
I can't even believe the execution. I just explained this to you, Stace.
Yeah.
Is this about the BBL?
Oh, no. We've lost you.
Part of it.
I don't know.
No, I explained to you that
Rappers
part of it was that Kendrick said that Drake had a BBL. I think it was supposed to make the stallion.
Yeah.
I thought that was like a marketing term.
No, it's not.
Do you know what a BBL is?
No, I did.
Okay.
I learned. I
Okay.
didn't. I have to be honest.
She thought it was so ridiculous that surely it has to be a marketing term.
Impossible for it to be real.
So impossible.
And how are we doing on those nails?
We are almost done. I'm just trying to layer it a bit just so you can see the red because my nails are black.
I think you've done a pretty good job there.
So now we've got a burgundy situation happening here.
Very
I think
nice.
I'm similar, like a kind of a violet situation. Because
Come on, get
look at
into
let me
it.
get the close up over there.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be careful as it dries.
I will. I haven't done nail polish in years, so this is new.
Girl, the other day I was like, haha, shh. I was like, right, that is so a Sena ADHD thing to do. But let's get into it and talk about you. Because born and raised in Queenstown, Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
Tell me about the journey to the city of gold.
Damn it, this place has sucked me in. I'll never go back, I don't think. No, I'm joking.
The city has her now.
The city has me. Isn't it? We all want Imali. No, so I grew up, I was born in Queenstown, which has now been changed to Komani. It is a very, very small town in the Eastern Cape. I lived in two worlds, essentially. So I was in the town during the week, and then I was Islalini, so rural areas with my grandparents on the weekend. So I kind of got to live like two existences, if you can, the very impoverished world and then a very, let's say, middle class world during the week. And I went to an all girls school. I got bullied really badly, and so I was just like, yeah, I'm not feeling this anymore. And so I applied to a new school all by myself, saved the money, applied, forged my mom's signature, sent it all through, and then got accepted. And then I went to my mom and I said, I'm changing schools. And then so we moved to East London, and that was, I think, the best decision. I made my whole family move, essentially. And then when it was time for varsity, my mom was like, you're going to Joburg, that's where the money is. There was no chat about a Cape Town. There was no chat about like Rhodes University. There was none of that. It was like, you're going straight to Joburg. That's where the money is. That's where the influence is. That's where the connections are. And so, yeah, and I think in 2012, I officially moved to Joburg for school, and I've been here since.
That's incredible, but also not us looking at each other as, why is Rhodes catching strays? Like,
No,
we are Rhodes.
I wanted to go to Rhodes. And my mom
We
was
did.
like, yeah, my mom was like, you're not going to Grahamstown. I'm sorry, it's too small. Yeah.
I just want to ask you about your upbringing, because I feel like we don't talk about this a lot as Black kids. And sort of the spaces that we get into as our parents have gotten social mobility and been able to give us access to resources that they previously didn't have. 100%. I also have come from a background where my grandmother and a lot of my cousins were in the rural area, and then I had proximity to rural life and then city life. And how did you navigate existing in the dichotomy? I don't know if we unpack that enough as Black kids.
Yeah, I think, if I think about it in the moment, I don't think for me there was any difference, because I grew up so rural, and then it was literally two worlds. But I did find that in a small town like Queenstown, a lot of the kids were Black. I didn't have that, I'm the only Black girl in the school, There were a lot of Black kids. There were also a lot of white kids. And for me, there wasn't like, I can't pinpoint like I don't want to say an issue, but like this magnificent difference, because Queenstown is such a farm town as well. It almost felt like one thing, there wasn't a major difference. But if you say to me, moving to East London, which is now a city, versus being in the rural areas, it's just two completely different worlds. There's a lack of community in big cities that rural areas have. There is a kindness that people in rural areas have, like greeting, for example. When I moved to Joburg, I remember I would walk down the street and I'd be like, hello. And people would just look at me like I was crazy. Because in Queenstown and in the Eastern Cape in general, you greet.
Yeah.
If you're walking down the street and you see a mum's, you greet. Yeah. So I think those were the most obvious things for me. It was just this like, that was the difference. I don't know if I've answered your question properly. Yeah.
Speaking of all this energy that you're going to pick up your family and move them off to East London, because you had a plan.
I had a plan.
You had a plan. You started a company that way too.
Well, not like that, but yes.
Well, with the same energy.
Same energy.
Yeah, tell us a bit about, again, Until. I just feel like it's such a fascinating story.
Yeah, so we were these kids who were bored, essentially, and we had realized that on that Friday was June 16th, and we realized it was a long weekend, and so we were like, okay, cool, let's throw a party. And we mulled over it. What are we going to do? It's June 16th. So we're like, let's throw a high school cool party where all our friends come and dressed in school uniform. And so we start doing all these like memes and all the stuff on Twitter. Before memes were a thing, we were using like Jacob Zuma to promote our event. And it blew up that week. So much so we were on Metro on the Friday.
So quickly.
Literally in 4 days.
Kidding?
So cool.
We were on Metro on Friday advertising our party like a quick slot. One friend worked for Red Bull, so he got a stock. Another worked for Castle Light. And so in like 4 days, me and my group of friends had managed to use our connections to make this party come alive. And on our poster, we said the party goes on, it starts at 8 p.m. and goes on until. And so that's how we got our name. And then we threw another party and we were like, okay, maybe we're onto something here, right? This themed parties, because also we were consumers of a variety of kinds of events and music. So we found at the time there was this disjointed party scene, right? House was house. Hip hop parties were hip hop parties. Electronic music was electronic music, you know? There was no like convergence of all those genres. And so we kind of realized that we could be that, you know? And so we started coming up with different events, and slowly it snowballed into this events company. Then brands started coming to us like, oh, we need a cool idea for this. And yeah, Until was born. It's 12 years old now. It made it through the pandemic.
Wow.
Like
That is, that's so incredible. As you're just describing this as a bunch of kids with an idea, reaching out to your networks, and basically it just starting out as fun, I can't help but think of, like, how do you begin to describe South African groove scene and the essence of the culture in it? Like, Stacey and I work in consumer research, right?
Yeah.
And we work with big brands, but to be able to capture the essence of how do you articulate that to someone with no proximity to culture?
I think a lot of brands and a lot of event organizers in general miss the one thing that is universal in South Africa, and that's equality, right? Everybody wants to be equal in South Africa, and we tapped onto that immediately. So our events don't have VIPs. We have an event called Bacardi Holiday Club where everything is all inclusive. So once you walk in through the doors, you won't need your wallet, alcohol, food, everything. And I think that's what for us made us different to everyone else, is because we genuinely wanted everyone from all walks of life to be able to have one good night, right? And not have to stress about having a table or having a budget or where are they seated, and, you know? And I think that was our biggest, if you want to call it, unique selling point, USP, was that. And also the creativity that went behind it. When we started, there was no themes, you know. A party was just a party. And we were like, we're going to find all these themes and we're going to find all these venues. And I mean, there's a venue down the road from where we're shooting, which was an old recycling plant or whatever. And we drove past one day, we called the number. He was like, I don't use this building. We transformed that entire building for one event. So we were very quickly adapted into what is the consumer's experience, over it being profit driven or over it being however else other events are driven. Yeah.
And I just also, like, as you're explaining, you made you've simplified something. We all want equality. And I think what you do is especially like significant, because I feel like Black joy is revolutionary in that sense. We're told to center our pain, center our struggle, center what is in our pockets. And essentially we want a place to be free and to express that. Did you understand how significant that was at the time? And do you appreciate it still now, as 12 years later, it's still going on? I mean, Bacardi Holiday.
I don't think I appreciated at the time. What, I was 20? We just wanted to throw a party, you know? But as you evolve and you look back, you're like, oh, that's what we were doing. You know, we just wanted to, in hindsight, when I look back at it, that's what we were doing. But I think more it's a testament to the kind of people we were. More than it was like, oh, that's a goal of ours. It was the group of people that we had together also had almost the same values. And so it was very easy to implement these things where we look back now and we're like, oh, we were a bit revolutionary when we did that.
That was political.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think about Genesis All Black, which is an event that we created. That's the first time we did like electronic music, house music, hip hop, right? And the reason we went with all black was because everyone was doing all white parties. And we were like, we are sick of wearing all white. We are so sick of it. And so we called it Genesis All Black. But what ended up happening with that is that it became this vessel for like, I am black, and, you know, a celebration of blackness and a celebration of community and creativity and all this other stuff. That wasn't what we had intended. You know, we just didn't want to wear all white. So hindsight is 2020, I guess.
And what is the diversity of the people that attend the parties?
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Number one, I think we are the first brand to be very much affiliated with the LGBTQ community. So we book a lot of the DJs that attend a lot of our parties from way back in the day before, not to say that it was popular, but before their cause was in the forefront, let's say. We used to have white people. I don't know what happened to them.
White people.
We lost the white people.
Oh, they're not grooving.
We lost the white
They're
people.
not
Where are you? But it's pretty much a reflection of South Africa. So you'll find Indians, you'll find colored people, black people, but majority, I would say, black people. And yeah.
Yeah. And what's it like being a black female entrepreneur?
It's
some of the
hard.
challenges.
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah.
I remember this one time we were doing a side recce with a brand that I will not name because I hope to work with them one day. And we were all standing in a circle because when we founded Until I was the only woman, right? So amongst 7 or 8 guys, I was the only woman. And we were standing in a circle and one of my business partners was like, oh yeah, the floor plan is in my car, but I'm just lazy to go fetch it. So this is what we're doing. And then the lady said to me, don't you just want to go fetch it? Why? Amongst all these other people, you've decided I must be the skivvy to go fetch this thing. So in the beginning, it was very hard. There was always these assumptions that I didn't own the business.
Wow.
There was the assumptions that I was a diversity hire, if you will.
Amongst the partners?
No. My partners were great.
General.
Just in general, you know. So and I think that's why we then took the decision for me to be front facing for the company, you know. So I ended up doing all interviews that we did. If we were doing a TV show, whatever the case may be, if we had to do a press release, it would be my name that was assigned to it. And that's kind of shows the kind of guys I was doing business with, because they immediately figured that out and they were like, okay, cool, so you're gonna be the face of this thing that is assumed to be male owned, you know.
Oh, I love it, making a statement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's also, this is where I feel whether or not it was conscious, like how powerful that sort of allyship or that being conscientized in that way. Sometimes it is the people who have the access to the privilege that need to step back and actually say, I'm going to put you up, girl.
Exactly.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time.
We talk about that
all the time. Use your privilege.
Yeah.
That's the point, right? If we're going to sit and we're going to be, you know, whatever the cause might be, there are always going to be those privileged people, and we always have to look to them to take the message to the forefront, because nobody else listens to everyone else. So you kind of almost have a responsibility. Yeah.
No, I completely agree with that. I think let's get into Howzit, guys. Your current affairs. Wow, you make things like the budget speech. You make content about just even all the crazy stuff happening in America. What led you to start making current affairs content?
So I, for a long time on my Instagram stories, right? Because it wasn't so. Remember when Instagram got really serious and everything had to be professional on the feed?
Yeah.
So on my Instagram stories, I would just break things down, right? Because I find politics to be extremely entertaining, and I think that's why people are like confused. Like, I think it's hilarious at times. Like, I know Donald Trump is wrong, but I think he is so funny. I think it's literally Real Housewives with people's countries. You know? I know. It like, to me, it is so humorous at times. Obviously, there are moments where it's really sad, but so I find it's like watching WWE. So
sorry, but the latest one about the war plans, like like communicating the war plans on a WhatsApp group. Sorry, that was the wrong person to have added. But anyway, now that you know everything,
since you're here,
should we bomb them? Shouldn't we bomb them? Should we bomb them? Shouldn't we bomb them?
So yeah, I used to do this on my stories all the time, just like, oh my god, did you guys see this? Did you see that? Or whatever the case may be. And I think the first one that was quite serious, where I took effort into researching it, was when South Africa went to the ICJ to put a case against Israel for genocide. And I remember doing that on my story, and then someone saying this would be great on TikTok. So I literally just took saved all of them, edited it for TikTok, and threw it on and forgot about it, because I was just one of those people who was passively watching on TikTok. And then slowly but surely, I was just like, I would do every now and then just commentary, and then it was that video No. It was actually the first video was the one where I was warning white Cape Townians that you think this digital nomad thing is not going to affect you because you are of better means than the average South Africans. It's coming for you. And boy, was I right. Because here they all are now making videos. And that was the first one. And when I noticed that engagement of like, oh, this is kind of like what people want to hear from me, I almost double clicked on that. But then I got petrified. So then I stopped until the war video.
Tell me about why you got petrified.
The idea of TikTok, okay, let me explain it like this. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the other social medias is people quite literally opting into you, right? Very rarely are people going to come across your content unless they've followed you. So they've made the decision that they want you, right? They've opted into you. Whether they're opting into you because they're going to drag you for filth later on, but there's almost like a social contract that we get into, right? And so a community is created on those apps. I understand the people who follow me, they understand me or whatever. TikTok is a different beast, right? Because of the way the algorithm is set up, from, someone I went to school with in grade 7 to my mom's peers, to, someone in England can perceive you. And that was terrifying for me, because I'm a very anxious person. And so for me, I was just reluctant because I was just like, once you go into this part, and we've seen, they build you and then they break you down. So I think it was just that fear.
I mean, we spoke a little bit before the start of the interview about how you also get blocked, right?
Yeah.
Like, TikTok's going to find some words. I mean, Senna and I are struggling with this at the moment.
Yeah.
The kind of comments that people speak about when they're reflecting on your videos, the videos themselves, the language that we use, it's going to pick up something and not be happy. And that makes it difficult to have these conversations. Yeah,
I mean, I've gotten many messages. I can't find your account. I can't find this video. This is banned. I struggle with uploading videos. So I'll give you an example. Last week I did a video about the ceasefire breaking essentially between Israel and Palestine. That video, before people even saw it, it was under review immediately. Like there was no like, oh, somebody complained about this video. It was immediately under review. The same thing happened with the video I did last week as well about Donald Trump and the United States and whatnot. It's immediately under review. So I'm not sure. Obviously, I think we all know why. Media is under threat globally. And I think that's why it is important for us to have these accounts, because you can't trust mainstream media anymore. But also there's a certain responsibility that people have to do the research, which I feel at times is lacking.
Yeah. And even on that, I just want to point us to something so significant of mainstream media and media in general is under attack in an era of misinformation. I think it's important to reflect how significant what you do is in light of even our historical context. Misinformation and censorship of information was a tool used by the apartheid government to mass murder and oppress Black people on a scale of like
they were successful.
They were so efficient with it. It's actually it's a masterpiece. So I'm going to give an example. It's the Publications and Entertainment Act of 1963, which allowed for the establishment of the control board, publication control board, and they had the power to ban like books, films. They had the power to ban anything that was deemed undesirable or any highlighting of any anti-apartheid resistance, any Black consciousness. So I guess my question to you is, in engaging in this way, do you think that even us, the consumers of the content that you make, have done enough to understand the significance of doing the research, understand the significance on how information can really be so dangerous and used to oppress on levels we can't even comprehend?
Yeah, I don't think so. And I comment this a lot of times, or if when I meet people who are like, oh my God, I've stopped watching the news. I'm like, don't. You can't trust me. I'm in my gown telling you about Donald Trump. You cannot trust me. You also have to you have a responsibility to then take what I've said and go further and, see where you where you can fill in gaps if there are gaps, or maybe at times even correct me. You know, I also make mistakes. I'm not going to be perfect all the time. And I think just right now, media literacy is at an all-time low, right? We have short attention spans. You know, some people, like, people will not know this about me, but I'm terrible at Google searches. I mean, the act of searching for something. So, like, the keywords that you must use, I am horrible. It takes me so long to get to a topic because the basics of how do you search for a topic, I suck at, right? And so if I'm bad at it, I can imagine how many other people are bad at it. And so you'll have people saying, but I don't know what to Google and I don't know what to say. And for me, with the rise of AI, employ it. You know, about ChatGPT, I know it's controversial. Maybe use DeepSeek, you know, since we're affiliated with BRICS. I don't know. So, I don't think people do enough to educate themselves on how information can be used as a tool for or against them, you know. Yeah. And I always encourage people, you have to do more. You have to learn more.
Yeah, we've had discussions about exactly the same thing. It's almost like it needs to be, perhaps it can be a stepping stone, but you need to journey your own journey to teach yourself about what's happening and form your own opinions.
Yeah.
Like, don't just take whatever's out there as fact. But what I do really like, and if we're going to frame it as a stepping stone, is the fact that you take these. I mean, let's be honest, politics, as entertaining as it is also really complicated. And it's really nice to have that sort of an idea put to you that you can then go in like a really user-friendly way.
Yeah.
So I can now, okay, cool. Like, that makes a little bit of sense, but let me just go and do a bit of research and understand it a bit better.
Yeah. I found that, and one of my biggest gripes with just academia, media in general, it's just overcomplicating the simplest of things. Yeah. Right? And when I'm back at school, so when I'm reading an academic journal, I am pissed half of the time because I'm just like, you could have said this simpler. Like, once you're done reading the whole thing, did you have to use so many big words? So I found that for me, because I'm an extremely literal person, so for me, 1 + 1 = 2. I don't understand innuendos. I barely catch on to sarcasm. So all those other things like, meaning that's hidden, I struggle at it. And so for me, it was very important to make it as simple as possible because I understand it simply. Because growing up, my dad was imprisoned in Robben Island, right? And so politics was dinner table chats, right? That was very big. My mom and I on Sunday, she's reading the City Press, I'm reading the Sunday Times, we swap, and then we have a whole conversation about how did the two papers report on a story. Oh no, in this one they said this. Oh no, in this one they say this. But this one is white monopoly, what. And then, so I grew up with the terms, the lingo, all of that other stuff already at a very young age. So I can also understand how intimidating politics must seem. Something that I see simply is probably extremely intimidating to other people, but it's so important, right? And so it was very important for me to make it, and I think maybe this also comes from my brother. We had a very big argument. When did we vote? Last year? Yeah. He said he was not going to vote. I said, it was so bad. My mom had to, we didn't speak for weeks. My mom had to, do an intervention.
Yeah, and the mediate. Personal is the political.
Yeah, and that was the first time that I realized that we've lost. He did end up voting, by the way.
Yay!
My influence is strong. Maybe some bribery. But influence was very strong. But it was that interaction with him where I realized, oh my God, we grew up in the exact same house. We are 10 years apart. We have completely different upbringings. Because by the time he's grown, I've left school and my mom and him have different interests that they speak about. He's studying psychology, so they speak more on science and being a doctor and, all those other things. So it was that realization for me that there's an entire generation that wasn't prepped like how millennials were, because we were fresh out of apartheid. So it was drilled into us, the history, why it's important. Even campaigns like the Rainbow Nation, we can look back at them now and say, oh, that wasn't maybe the best plan. But the Rainbow Nation drilled into us that we are one and, this is our history, this is our past. So I essentially, over the past year, kind of identified that we have a big problem, and that is the youth is not engaging in politics at all. Yeah.
I just want to point out something that I thought was really cool is how you do make how you take what could be complicated and make it entertaining, right? And some of these comments that people have said, like, I built this FYP brick by brick. but the other one I really loved was, I love it when people explain current affairs like tea. That's really cool. That's it. You know, and so you do make it accessible using what you have.
Somebody said Naledi Pando. Oh my.
They're so silly. It's so funny. They call themselves the Cocoa Melons, like news for Cocoa Melons. But I think it's also just a reflection of just, you know, our education system to a certain point, that basic concepts, you know, like trade or whatever the case may be, are seemingly not landing to people. And that is also a very big concern for me. But for me, the simpler the better. Like I said, like I don't think there's any point in sitting on a chair and using big words and then nobody understands you, and then you have this niche market. It's silly to me.
You obviously also make content that is maybe even quite difficult to make and research. And I'm going to make specific reference to Justice for Kwekwe. To everybody listening, our viewers, I'm going to put a trigger warning on this portion of the discussion. You had to make that video and post it a few days ago. What kind of, you know, I know you research something. What considerations happen in your mind when you're researching a topic? You know that it's important for the public to hear, balancing the sensitivities of it, victims, people involved. What was going through?
I didn't want to do it, if I'm being honest. I didn't want to do it. I felt like I wouldn't do it justice. I'm a very jokey person on my TikToks, right? It took about 4 or 5 takes because I realized, oh, that's insensitive. You can't say that. Oh, that's that. But the reason I did do it is because, and I'll tell you this, when I had a lot of comments, Justice for Kwekwe. Eventually I started asking, what is the story about? And then one girl took the time to explain what it is. Then I went and I Googled, what is the meaning of current affairs? Right? Because I said, I'm what? A current affairs enthusiast, right? Does that mean I'm only speaking about politics? Does that only, you know, what? So I had to Google that just to rationalize it for myself in my mind. And when I looked at what it entails, I was like, oh, okay, this falls in your field of what she should say, right? And then on the morning, so obviously lots of videos, comments, Justice for Kwekwe, Justice for Kwekwe. When I'm looking through my For You page, I'm not seeing anything about it as well. And then I realized, oh, okay, it's up to me, I guess. And another fear that I had is at the time when I first started looking at it, there were no sources, right? And that's one of my strict rules, is that I need to have reliable sources because I have to be responsible for the information that I'm spreading out. So outside of the Mom's podcast, which I could not watch, I couldn't find anything else. And so I delayed it by a day, and then I searched again, and then Women for Change, and then News 24 had one, and then Drum had one. And then I said, okay, now I can do it in my way where I give facts and not be as opinionated, but at the same time, do the right thing. I won't sit here and pretend like I was immediately ready to like take the cause in. I just didn't know how to approach it. It's so sensitive. It's so painful. It's someone. You know, when you're speaking about Donald Trump and what he's doing, you think of Mexicans. There's no like a person attached to it. But I'm glad I did it. Because what I did notice is then I think every creator had the same fear I had. Right, because then when I logged on the next day, more videos were coming from people that I know, people putting it links in bio, etc., etc. The whole thing was just, painful. Reading up on it, watching bits and pieces where I could of the Mom's podcast, you know, and just kind of also reflecting on stories I've heard, whether from friends or, you know, people's sisters of the same thing. It was extremely tough, but it had to be done.
Oh, I really struggled with the whole conversation. So the thought of having to do actual research into it to articulate a point of view would really break my heart.
Yeah, because you wanna be on that line of objectivity as well, which I like to think. I mean, sometimes I veer off, especially when it's the United States. I don't give a damn about objectivity, but to kind of not let your feelings about it go in and just report it as it is. You know, I have feelings about the caretaker or the taxi driver or the principal, but I can't, because it's a case and there's this, I can't really, you know, it's almost as if like you struggle with the power that you yield and what the implications could be if you say the wrong thing. You know, people are very susceptible at times to stupidity, but at the same time to action, right? It could be your video that sets off action and now the school is burnt down. Now
it's a fair point.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's why I was struggling with it, is that once I do this and then these hundreds of thousands of people see it, what's next? Is it going to go the way I hope it goes, where mainstream media takes it on and people start knowing about it, whatever? Or is it going to take the other route where it could lead to violence, it could lead to, you know, disruption, which is not what I intended. But at the same time, disruption might be what we need for this kind of, it's difficult.
I can imagine on that. I think also on TikTok, specifically on that platform, we've seen social or current affairs content creators really struggle, or some even take a step back, do it in shorter bursts. So I can understand that is such a real anxiety. But what has the reception been so far to the types of news you make? Does it justify?
It justifies it. First of all, if my mom messages me and says, keep doing those videos, because remember, I'm dealing with a doctor here, an academic, okay, slightly narcissist. Every doctor is a narcissist because they save lives.
Shout out.
It's been extremely positive. I won't lie to you guys. Which is also a little bit scary, because then you almost have a fear of making a mistake. You know, you almost want to be endeared forever. But there is going to come a time, you know, and I think that's where my anxiety comes from. But overall, it's been extremely positive. I think what I didn't realize is, one, that it quite literally comes with fame. So the first time people started coming up to me and saying, "Howzit?" I was confused. Because I don't think what I'm doing is that serious.
Yeah.
I also need to make that, like, I don't think that it's that important. I think, or rather mostly in the beginning, I think I'm just taking the piss, essentially, right? Even in my bio it says, don't take me too seriously. So I didn't understand the magnitude of it as much, how much people wanted this information. So there's a whole lot of that, like, oh, I can finally hold a conversation amongst my peers, or oh, I can speak to my boss now about this. So it's been extremely positive. I understood that there was a need. I never understood how big that gap was. Yeah.
And Stace, I think I'm going to throw you into this one too, because you've started recently making TikToks and social media content. And obviously we have this platform, which allows us to have a little bit more nuance to our conversations on race and privilege. But as a white woman in South Africa, speaking about race and what that represents and how triggering, understanding how triggering that can be when you have a point of view openly being anti-racist. Do you fear being cancelled?
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes. The comments, particularly from white people, are extremely harsh. Like, extremely harsh. I don't know why people think it's okay to use language like that in such a public space. But to be fair, I don't, or rather I should say, to be honest, I don't particularly care what those sorts of people have to say. What I do care about is when people that I know have comments like that. That's what stings the worst. And that's been a bit of an eye-opener for me. I think the extent to which people don't realize their own biases has blown my mind. And it's been difficult, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I have a sister who's white. My dad was very experimental.
That is so gracious.
She's great. She's a wonderful girl. But I remember when we were younger, she struggled a lot with the half being white, half being black, and her identifying with her blackness, and then kind of having to change her tone and the way she moves when she enters white spaces, and then when she goes back to black spaces, and so on and so forth. So I can imagine how challenging it is, because what you are at risk at is losing the community that you've always had your entire life. I'm not saying you're going to lose all of it, but there are people who are your best friends that maybe the more you interrogate or the more you are investing in what you're doing, you are now realizing that, oh my God.
Yeah.
You're an op.
Exactly where we are at.
It's like you're an op.
You're an op.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're an op, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that must be jarring, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to go on to sort of how fast the sort of news cycle is, and particularly stories that go viral and disappear. It's crazy. Well, let me ask. Racism is such a pervasive issue, systemic racism in our country. Every single year, every single news cycle, something is going to happen. There's going to be another story. And then we move on really quickly from it without really addressing the core issue.
Yeah.
Afrikaner refugees.
I don't think we're going to move on too quickly from that. I'm sorry, but it's too good.
I think
It's too good.
we're in it for a while. Everybody buckle up.
But I'm interested to pick both your brains. What do you think is the racist story we got over too quickly, or a news story, that we got over too quickly?
I'll let you start. Well, I think.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. Actually, it came to mind just because I have the visual in my mind still. But do you remember that the school in Cape Town, Pinelands, had the coloured children who were auctioning off the black kids?
Oh.
Do you remember that one?
Oh, yes.
I
do
thought
remember
surely
that.
this is going to... The visual that stands in my head is they were standing behind a gate. So I kind of saw it as almost like a prison cell.
jail,
It looked
yeah,
like
yeah.
And I just thought that ended far too quickly. It's a hardcore thing to be doing. And I also had the thought that it moved very quickly, but I also thought there's so much happening in schools. I wonder whether schools are talking to one another to deal with these issues. Because when I then went back and looked back at what had happened with that scenario, the kids were disciplined and made to do community service and whatever. But and all of that is great, corrective. But are we working to eliminate the actual problems, which are systemic, that are sitting much deeper than that? And are schools doing it together, or they're all just using their little governing bodies to sort out what's happening?
Yeah,
So
I hear you.
I guess if, Senna, your question is around did the story move too quickly? I think so. But what about the backstory and the fixing story? Can we use that as a catalyst to exploring the backstory?
I think what comes to mind for me is the Afrikaner man who fed the two ladies to pigs.
Pigs, yeah.
Murdered them and fed them to pigs. I don't think we've necessarily moved on, because every now and then I see snippets of it. I just think we moved on very quickly, and as black people we weren't angry enough, to myself included.
Yeah.
I just want everyone to just have this vision of, first you've taken these people's lives, and then now we know pigs eat everything, and every mafia movie has taught us that to get rid of a body you feed it to the pigs, right? But there was for me a almost like a line of like, they didn't value these people's lives at all. So much so they fed them to the pigs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think there was, when the guy was in court now, there was a story about how he was crying in the courts because he missed his life, you know? So you almost have this vision that like, this is so inconsequential to him. He's not crying because he's looking around and saying, oh, I did a really bad thing, or, oh, these are two lives of two black women that I took, or whatever the case may be. We've inconvenienced him.
Yeah.
And that's what irritates me about a lot of, you know, the Afroforum rhetoric or this or that. It's almost as if like progress is inconveniencing them, and how dare we inconvenience them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's and then they're not even smart enough to do the work to, you know, learn, or if we're talking about the Land of Expropriation Act, right? Because that's what all of this is the basis of. You've not taken the time, whether it's because you want to spread your message or whatever the case may be, to read that the government can't just arrive and take your farm, chief.
Yeah.
They have to go to court and then go plead, and that's without compensation. You know, and even with compensation, if you decide that no, you're not feeling it, you go to court. You and government have to go toe to toe.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and negating the fact that this is a law that exists everywhere in the world. You know, the United States does it even worse. They don't even care for you to go to the courts. They'll take your land and build a highway immediately. So I think that's the story for me. I think that story for me just highlighted 2 steps forward, 10 steps back of democracy.
What was interesting to me is how you highlighted how even Black people weren't angry enough. And I'm wondering, in a news cycle like this and this era of information, but also where we stand in our society, how much of these stories we become desensitized to, the very attack on our existence on a continuous basis. For me, one thing that stands out is the scandal with certain financial institutions charging Black customers higher interest rates on their homes, and also the manipulation of the currency. And that for me shows the scale of systemic racism, right? And that for me makes me feel the most hopeless, because I sit here with no real institutional power to be able to change that. So I can have these conversations, and I truly believe in the power of conversations. But when you realize the larger forces at play that have such a material interest in keeping Black South Africans impoverished, I don't think we get angry enough about that. And quite frankly, even if we did, where would we even take that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm reminded of, there was the news headline now. I don't even think we clicked on that one, where the report came out that most of the funding to assist small businesses during COVID, most of that funding went to white companies. I'm a Black company who was suffering during COVID, right? The only reason, and this is the thing that, like, I think when people don't understand systemic racism, they just think it's like, oh, you don't have access to a loan, right? So we are a young Black company. What, COVID was 4 years ago, so 28, 29, whatever the case may be, young. Most of us still live at home because we've never been granted a loan by any institution. I'm showing you revenue. I'm showing you millions and millions of rands coming in, going out, whatever. I've never been given a loan. We're applying for all these different grants, whatever. The only reason we survived was because for 5 years prior to the pandemic, we never took dividends, right? We continuously put the money back into the account. That year, 2020, was the year we were going to declare dividends for ourselves. And then I remember my CEO saying, I have a bad feeling. Let's just hold off. And then 2 months later, COVID happened. Thank God. Whatever that was, thank God, right? And so when we say systemic racism or racism or whatever, hurts every single Black person or those who are impoverished. I'm even talking about the middle class and whatnot. Because what that did is that it denied us being able to buy cars, being able to buy houses, because we have to plow back into our company. We've been told that you have to be entrepreneurs, you have to create jobs, you have to do all these things. I've done everything on the checklist, and still I suffer, right? And I don't get what, my white counterpart gets. And that's what's painful about systemic racism, is it's the unseen, the misery of like, okay, how are we going to pay rent this month? Because even though I've paid rent for years at the same office building, I don't have any grace, for example. But then you speak to another office down the road and they're like, oh yeah, we pay like once every 6 months. It's chilled. Oh, you need a loan? Why don't you just get a loan from your bank?
Ask your dad.
Boy, he's 6 feet under. I'm sorry, it's been so long I can make dad jokes. Dead dad jokes, I'm allowed to.
How do you handle your ops?
How do I handle my ops, the negativity? I'll explain this first and say that I'm a very sensitive person. As a child, I was extremely shy. I take everything personally, right? But one thing I've learned on social media in general, and this is why my Twitter is locked, is that a lot of people in this day and age are broken, ne? and lack understanding of things, right? So instead of coming for the topic at hand, you come for me. I've learned to stop taking that personally. It's not easy. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm just like whatever, but I think the moment I stopped engaging those kinds of accounts is the moment I was free. And I'm talking before Instagram, for example. I mean, before TikTok. I'll give this example. This one person, I had shared a story about how I failed economics 5 times, right? And eventually got my degree, whatever. And this person replied to me and said, it's because you're out drunk every weekend. That's why you failed economics 5 times. You don't know me.
And we did that at Rhodes too, and we still passed.
I was drunk.
I'll have you know.
I was. But you also don't know that before exam season, 4 weeks before, I stop everything. I'm offline, whatever. So the things that I do is I don't engage you. I don't debate you. I immediately block you. Right? If you're saying insensitive things, if you're being an asshole in my comments, if you're being rude to other people, if you don't know how to engage and I happen to see the comment, I block you. It's very chill for me. Number 2, my friends and I always used to have this rule, which is rule number 1, don't explain yourself. I'm not going to explain myself to strangers on the internet that I don't know, especially strangers that I can see aren't actually interested in engaging or understanding. They're just there to put you down. And then lastly, I go to a lot of therapy. I have been in therapy since maybe 2019. And that's, I think, what's given me the tools to be able to engage the way I engage now, right? I'm not saying the negative comments don't affect me. I just have the tools to deal with negative comments better than I think most people. So you'll never find me back and forthing. I also think studying philosophy helped me understand that your opinion on something doesn't take away my opinion on something. You're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. So I feel this way, you feel this way, cool. That's fine. I don't have to convert you. I understand that there is a responsibility, to change people's perceptions about things. But I don't have to fight to convert you, because there are certain people where it's not about engagement. It's not about wanting to know more. It's about trying to trick you, trying to catch you, trying to do this. I remember this one person, I did a video and I was talking about how Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union. This is now a fact that I haven't checked. I feel like I know this. I say this video or whatever. This person comes into my comment and says, Ukraine was never part of the Soviet Union. Ukraine was free. I panicked. You've set panic in me now. You've made me doubt myself. I Googled, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. I can then choose to respond to that person and say, no, but what had happened was da-da-da-da. I've left you. I've moved on. If you're choosing to be an idiot, you're choosing to be an idiot. There's nothing I can do for you. So that's what it is for me.
Pick your battles.
Yeah, you pick your battles, dude. But I can't lie and say it doesn't affect me. I'm so anxious about being perceived. And the negative comments that will come with it, because I'm such a sensitive person, because I take everything so personally.
And because a lot of the time people aren't necessarily, or at least all the time, commenting on your comments. They're commenting on you.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, I get things like, why do you feel you have the right to say that? You're clearly an effing Indian. Are you joking right now? Like, how is that helping the conversation in any way? I'm talking about systemic racism. Thank you very much for that comment, because it is so valid in the context of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
It's such a personal attack that makes no...
It's so stupid. This one girl says to me, love your content, but I think it's such a disgrace, or something like that it's such a disgrace that you don't have... Oh, if I were you, I would put some art behind that wall over there, whatever. I told you I do this thing in my gown. Sometimes I'm in my pink pajamas or whatever. Ne? I took the time that day. I said, hi. And she was Xhosa, so I gave it to her in full Xhosa. I said, I was typing for long because I was sounding out things. But I said, hi, I hope you're well. I don't know what about that video made you think that my account is about home decor, but I can assure you it's not. But since my wall bothers you so much, it's the first time I've ever engaged in a negative comment, but I just felt like this person, I am going to free you from having to be exposed to my bare walls. And I sat, guys, and I waited until she read it. And then when those 3 dots appeared, I said, block. I just wanted you to know.
And that is how you deal with an up.
Don't give energy to an up. Come on. Come with me with some like rational chops. Like, come with a sound argument. There's nothing I can do if you do not have critical thinking skills.
And I feel you on the sensitivity. And I think it's probably, I think it's also, you have probably justice sensitivity as well when you see things that are unjust, which is why you also make this content, because you probably care. And it's okay to care. I am going to wrap us off as
Wrap us off or wrap us up?
Wrap us up.
Wrap us up.
Thank you. I'm going to wrap us up, and I'm gonna play a game with you. Okay, you ready? I'll read out a headline, and as the current affairs enthusiast who thinks politics is low key hilarious, I want you to tell me whether or not you think this is real or fake.
Okay.
Real news or fake news?
Got
okay,
you.
in the words of Cheese Puff. Okay. Dogoloshe robs Spaza. Is this real or fake news?
It's fake real news.
Good. That is, hey?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's so good.
It's fake real news.
You knew exactly where that headline comes from.
Daily Sun, immediately. Immediately. So it's real because it came from a real publication. But it's, you know?
I think that's the perfect description. I was wondering how you were going to answer that. Stacey, well, the cat's out. Okay, Stacey, you go first on this next one, okay? Government proposes a new tax on single people for, quote, wasting national resources. Is this real news or fake news?
What on earth resources are we wasting?
In fact, we're saving.
I don't know, maybe it's like heat or something. We're
Water.
using water. You know, we're not cuddling so
That is
that we
fake.
open
We're
the
not
heater.
cuddling.
We're
That is
contributing
fake.
to the...
That has got to be fake. Please tell me that's fake.
Amahle?
It's definitely fake.
Yeah.
You know why? Because
Why?
logically, family would waste more resources. They
Than a single
use
person.
more water. They use more electricity. The cars in the garage, there's 2 of them. There's only 1 in mine.
Guys, what about the declining population rates like in Europe or something?
More
Could
of
be.
that. More of
Okay.
that.
Okay, it is fake. I made that one up
Yeah.
because I'm single. Hey. Okay, last one. A pigeon was arrested in India for spying. Is this real or fake?
It's real.
Stace, do you think it's real or fake?
Well, Amahle thinks it's real. So I think it's real. It's definitely real. She said. She said.
I'll give you my logic. Tell me if it's real or fake.
It is real. Washington Post reported this.
What?
The Guardian reported this. It is real. The pigeon actually got released after 8 months in detention. Last year in February. It was not a spy.
Yeah. I'm going to try not to be offensive here. I don't know what it is about them culturally that made me feel like it would be real. It just felt like something that would happen in India. Do you know what I mean? I can't
But well done for not being offensive.
you
That
know
was
what
really
I mean?
well.
I just felt like something that could be real. And also based on how many maths, based on how many questions were real or fake, we had to have one real
We had to
one.
have one more. A queen. Thank you so much, Amahle. It has been